Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of the United Cloud podcast. There's less than 1 week left of the transfer window, and as things heat up, I'm really delighted to announce that we've got a very special guest on the podcast today. And we're privileged to welcome Francesco Porzio onto the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ciao.
For those of you guys who are watching that don't know Francesco, he's a top journalist who this summer has really come into the light. And he's really worked closely with Marzio and Romano, and it's quite a good story to hear how you've come up through the ranks. And he is also the host of the Here We Go podcast alongside Fabrizio.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great to have him on. So before we get going, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what your story is and how you became such a renowned football journalist?
Well, I'm still in the learning phase, to be honest. Like, I'm glad that you say that. I'm really happy about it, but I still think, I'm learning every day. I think I'm learning with the best out there, which are, of course, Gianluca Di Marzio and Fabrizio Romano. And I started as a lot of people do, like just writing for some blogs here in Milan, and also when I went to university in Rome. It was like a very, I would say, normal journey, I would say. Yeah. So I started to write about Italian football. And then, of course, I started to work with Di Marzio, which, as you know, is his expertise at transfer market. And, when you start to work with him, you start to, know the world of transfers, talk to agents, sport directors. And Milan is a city where, you can actually see the transfer market because agents are meeting in the hotels, and it's a very physical transfer market way of doing the job, right? Unlike England or other countries in Europe and all over the world. So I would say that was I started with Di Marzio, my career, let's say, and then when I worked with Di Marzio, Fabrizio Romano was and is part of his team, in Sky Sport Italy, and we always worked together. And we became friends at the beginning, and then we started to work more and more together. And now we are also colleagues and friends, all things together, let's say. And
wow. That's pretty cool. I mean, obviously everyone knows Fabrizio Romano, and well, I mean, there's a lot of interest in the podcast you guys do together. What's it actually like working alongside him and Di Marzio? How are they in the working environment?
All right, they for sure changed me in a way because it's a very difficult life at the end because people think that just just some tweets and just some few months per year of doing the job. It's a job that basically destroys your social life from a point of view because you're always there. You always need to be updated, and there is no moment where you can relax because all the news can happen at any time. So especially in the summertime, also in the winter when the transfer windows are open, the life is crazy. But then also during the normal month and year, there's still work to do. We all have different things to do at the end. So we can say that it's a job that it's frustrating from a point of view, of course, because you have to change your life basically, and you have to be totally. It's like a football player, right? So you need to be addicted to it from a point of view, and also you need to keep in your mind that your life changes a lot when you do this kind of job, and in a good way also, of course. I'm not saying it's a bad job to do, it's not a nice thing to do, but of course there are also the negative parts, and you have to think also about that when you want to do this job. That's why when people tell me, I want to work with you, I want to do things with you, it's not easy. It's not easy at all, and you need to know that before starting doing that, for sure.
As you said, though, it does take a lot of hard work and dedication to the job. You need to be fully committed. And obviously there are hard moments, but what would you say is your favorite thing about being a football journalist?
Well, football was always my my favorite hobby as a kid. I was playing football, but also like watching football, and I really want to be part of this world. And being part of something that it's your main passion, because I mean, even journalists are part of the world of football. Don't just explain or tell stories; they're also part of football. It's super nice, I think. It's a dream that it's coming true, and I'm super happy about it, to be honest. And it's a dream. It's really a dream that now it's become reality. So it's sometimes when I think about it, I think, oh, that's the best thing I could imagine for my life right now, and being part of this. And if you want to know, like specifically what I really like, it's the adrenaline when something is happening, and that's for sure. I mean, even if there are like days that I work, really, I'm not kidding, like 17, 8 hours, always there, and there is something happening. Even after that, I'm super happy. I'm super like buzzing for it, and I can't wait to go somewhere or like call someone or checking for some news. It's a very, very nice part of the job, that one.
Talking about that feeling of adrenaline you get when you get a story, do you remember your favorite story that you broke?
My favorite, you said?
Yeah.
My favorite one is for sure, it's not like a big news, but it was when Lichtsteiner went to Arsenal. That was like probably my first one outside Italy. And for sure, outside Italy was my first story that I broke. And it was, nice because nobody knew about it. And it was, I can say it was like a coincidence at the end that I knew that. And I checked with the right people, and the news was true, and everything exploded because I was not used to that. Now I'm used to DMs on Instagram, Twitter, or comments, and I can't answer anymore. I still have my DMs open, but I can't answer to everyone, of course, because it's crazy from one point of view. But before I was not used to that, so like I was completely overwhelmed by that. And it was nice because like when you go on TV for the first time, you're like, wow, that's amazing. But that's also like you're not used to that, right? So you don't know how to handle things. You start to maybe tweet something that you shouldn't, because sometimes tweets are can cause some problems. And it was like a school, let's say, for my career.
Well, I mean, it's very interesting, obviously, what you've done so far, but obviously the main reason why so many people will be watching today is because they want to know what's going on at Manchester United. So could you give us a little insight into what's going on, and what do you think we can expect for the last week of the window?
Okay, as we speak, there is like the Dembele story coming up, and I think we need to be careful in general right now, not just about Manchester United, but about all the transfers, because it's a very busy week, and it's a week where many clubs need to sell players, many agents need to change, the future of their players. Many clubs need to buy players. If you think about Manchester United, they've been talking about Sancho since April, and now they're still there in the same situation at the end, right? And so like there is a lot of things going on, and we need to be careful in understanding what's really happening and what's not, because also like there are agents proposing players to many clubs, including Manchester United, and so like we need to be careful right now. I think like I'm expecting, of course, United to buy a wing and sorry about it, and left back.
A left back, yeah.
I was thinking about the word. And I was thinking about the Italian word, and so like for sure I'm expecting that to happen, because we are expecting that to happen since 2 months. So for sure Alex Tellez is the main name. Sancho is still like an option. There is Dembele, but we need to be careful in not being amused by names that pop up at one point. Being careful, that's always my policy, and always the policy that Fabrizio has, because we work together, and it's better, right, sometimes to wait a bit and be careful in what we say, because we don't want to give fake news. We don't want to do that, because I mean, if I was aiming for Instagram or Twitter followers, I was like saying 5 names per day, right? And then like everyone's talking about you. But then what happens? Because maybe these 5 names, nobody of them will arrive really, and then you are like totally considered as fake news, and that's not what I want to do.
Do you think that, obviously you mentioned that we were after a left back and a right winger. So obviously we're just seeing the Dembele stuff coming out now, and obviously there's a bit of confusion about that. But do you think that United will try and go for Jadon Sancho this week? Obviously, Sancho's just he's just been confirmed to not be travelling to Bayern Munich for the German Cup game due to illness. Do you think that there's anything deeper than that in that story, or do you think it's just he has got an illness?
Okay, I lived in Germany for 3 years, and I know how the German clubs think and behave. And I don't think that Borussia Dortmund is the kind of club who, fakes a illness for something else that is going on. I think they could write, Jadon Sancho is not traveling to Munich. That's it. So I don't think they're strictly related. The fact that he's not going to Munich with Manchester United. What I can say is that if Manchester United was thinking that Sancho could not arrive, was not possible to get him, now they will have another right wing, right? Because they will go for someone else. So I'm saying that for sure Jadon Sancho was still, and probably will, even after this transfer window, if he doesn't arrive, the target number 1 for the future of the club. And we know that Sancho is willing to wait also next year to go to Manchester and play for United. So it's something that can happen. If it doesn't happen this transfer window, can happen the next one, like Bruno Fernandes was last year. That didn't happen in the summer, that happened in the winter. I would say more next summer if we can go further for next year, but then we're gonna see what's gonna happen. I'm expecting United to try again, and then if this time they can get in, go for someone else. And I mean, that doesn't mean they're not already working with someone else, because a club like United, but a club like every top club in the world works with different players at the same time, because they don't want to be exposed. Like Juventus, they were working for basically 5 strikers at the same time. Then Suarez didn't arrive, Dzeko didn't arrive, and then they got Morata. But they were working for Morata since 2 months. So, it's something that is very usual in this world.
One player that a lot of United fans are not too sure about is Alex Tellez from Porto. Is there any developments in that transfer recently?
Okay, Manchester United are a club that they want players basically at the conditions they want. And then you can say all the clubs want that. Yes. But United particularly, because if you think about it, if it wasn't for the Real Madrid conditions, Sergio Reguilón right now was a Manchester United player, 100%. Because he wanted to join Manchester United. He was like, his idea was to join Manchester United. But then what happened? Real Madrid put the 2 conditions, the 2 famous 2 clauses that we all know, and United said, "No, we are not staying on these conditions. We are not going for these conditions." And then Tottenham jumped in. Reguilón was convinced to join Tottenham, and then we know how the story ended. In the case of Tellez, he really wants to join Manchester United again. Like that's his idea. He wants to join. He has already agreed personal terms. There is no problem about personal terms. I think the personal terms, to be honest, that's my honest opinion, are not big deal in this kind of transfers, because a player like Tellez, why wouldn't go to Manchester United? And if they offer him to go there, why not? We're talking about top club, so why not? We would enjoy it. The problem is, of course, between Porto and Manchester United. So right now, I think it's more like a fight, between clubs trying to save money from the Manchester United side. Porto is not an easy club to deal with, from the history. So like they try to get as much as they can from a transfer, especially from a player like Alex Tellez. So I think it's a matter of time. It's true that, you know, time is expiring because it's 6 days to go and then everything will be over. Luckily, I was scared because it's quite a mess. So,
Yeah.
but I think, to be honest, that's what all the parties here want, and will be really a shame to destroy a deal like this for what, you know, for a few millions in a deal like that. Of course, it's not a lot of money, so we need to see what's happening. But I think at the end he will join United.
Nice one. So obviously they're United's main targets. You know, we all know about Sancho and Tellez and the left back and the right winger. What do you think about players who are actually at the club? So the departures we might see. Obviously, it looks like Andreas Pereira has gone to Lazio. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's doing the medicals on Wednesday morning. So yeah, he's going there, and it's all done. Basically, they're just waiting for the medical test, and that's it.
Nice. Two other players who've been linked of moves to Italy are obviously Chris Smalling and Diogo Dalot. Do you think that? I mean, I think it looks likely that Smalling will go back to Roma because they want him, don't they? But what about Dalot? Do you think he'll end up leaving?
I think to be honest, that's also the idea of the player, because right now, I mean, you tell me better than, I mean, who else can tell me better than you that he's not having a lot of space playing at United? Like, he's not like, I mean, he was expecting probably something more for his his experience at Man United. So probably he's willing to do like another experience and go also in Italy, who is a country that he really likes, and he would love to join. I mean, there is not a lot of time, as we say. So like these kind of deals can happen from one second to the other, or be installed and nothing's going to happen in the next 6 days. I think there are at least 2-3 clubs in Italy who are interested in him, and they're ready to make a bid for him to Man United. And I mean, it's a very difficult transfer market, this one, because there's not a lot of money around. So it's always like loan with obligation or loan with buyout option. I know the fans get crazy about this kind of deals, especially in England, I would say, because in Italy, we are used to this kind of deals, like loan with obligation and buyout option are like 90% of the deals are like that in Italy since like 5 years, because we had economic crisis in Italian football for a longer time, right, than you. So nowadays it's like a more global crisis. We are all in the same boat at the end. So when I say we, I mean Italian clubs and English clubs. So they all trying to do the same deals, and these obligations or buyout option are a classic in this kind of world. So, I mean, if United accept this kind of condition, I think he can leave in the next days too.
Okay. Another player who's obviously always in the news for different reasons is Paul Pogba. Obviously, I think we all know that he's not going to leave this summer. But do you think he will sign a new contract at Manchester United?
There are talks about it. So, like, they are talking. His agent, Nino Raiola, who, you know, is not an easy agent to deal with. And the club, they are talking about it. They're like for a renewal of the contract. I would say that right now his situation is a bit more stable if you compare it to last year or 2 years ago. While when he wanted probably to leave, now probably he himself sees more like a project in the club after Mourinho left, and I think there are good possibilities that he can renew the contract. It's not like something that we can say 100% he will renew the contract or he's not going to renew the contract. There will be talks. We see what they ask, and from the player side, and also what United can offer to him. But I think there are good chances he can renew the contract and stay United for more years.
Thanks for all the news about transfers. It's really interesting to see from a United perspective. But there's also going to be a lot of younger viewers listening to this podcast, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm really interested in doing what Fabrizio, Francesco do on a daily basis." So if there's a younger audience who are aspiring to be a football journalist, what would you say is the best way to get into the profession?
Okay, I would say something not very probably surprising, but the priority shouldn't be and should not be like the exposure on social media. I know that right now it's an easy way to, you know, get in this world. It's an easy way to be part of this world, but you need a solid basis. Like you need to know, for me, the priority has to be how to write. Like what I can always say to people that ask me about it is like, start writing. Whatever, it doesn't have to be on like the best website in the world. It can be, I started from a website that not many people view it. It was like not a very famous website, not even in Italy. And then like you start to write articles, you start to, you know, see the press conferences, you start to know how does it work to, you know, do this kind of job on the desk. And then you can move on to other, you know, because there is not just experts in transfer market, which is something I don't even know what does it mean at the end. I mean, yes, you can have connections, but people who say, oh, I'm an expert in transfer market, but I mean, you should be expert in football first and then expert in transfer market, right? So I consider myself a sport journalist 100%, but like in a more like broad way, not just transfer market. Then of course I work specifically with Fabrizio, with Di Marzio, with Gianluca. So like, of course my field right now, it's very focusing on transfer market, but that, like if I have to do, I work, for example, for One Football, and I do match reports, I do interviews, I do everything, right? Then of course I'm very focused on transfer market, but then you should be able to do everything else, and then what you want to do.
Wow. I mean, I can't, you know, express our gratitude enough that you've come on today. It's been a real pleasure. You know, I'm really delighted that we could get some news from you, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the window. If everyone make sure I'll put a link in the description to Francesco's socials on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you go and drop him a follow, and if you're watching, make sure you subscribe to us, and if you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow. Thanks everyone, and hope we'll call it a day there. Cheers.